I will never forget how Emeka's trouble started. It was a busy day in Juga town, where business owners never seemed to rest. The market was as noisy as always, with people shouting, bargaining and moving from one stall to the next. Tech Phone Village was packed with vendors selling phones, and Emeka was there with some boys he had recently started hanging out with. They weren't the best kind of friends, but Emeka wanted to fit in. One of them whispered to him, daring him to prove he was part of the group. "If you are really bad like us, do something. Steal a phone." Emeka looked around nervously. He knew it was wrong, but the pressure was too much. Before he could think twice, he reached out and grabbed the phone from a stall. It didn't take long before someone shouted, "Ole! Thief!" That word echoed through the market like a signal, and in no time, the place went wild. Emeka's so-called friends disappeared, leaving him all alone. The crowd was angry, their voices getting louder as they chased after him. Emeka ran as fast as he could, dodging between stalls and slipping through a narrow alley. He found a small hidden spot behind boxes and crouched down, his heart racing. The angry voices of the crowd were still close by. "Come out, if we catch you, eh?" Then a girl appeared from nowhere. Amara, she was a student like Emeka. She knelt beside him and whispered, "Shh, don't be afraid. I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help." Emeka was shaking. "Why should I trust you? Just leave me alone." "You can't trust me," she said softly. "I will help you. We need to go now." Reluctantly, Emeka followed her. They tried to move quietly, but it didn't take long before someone from the crowd spotted them. "Look, there he is, Ole!" the person shouted. The crowd rushed towards them, and Amara stood in front of Emeka, trying to protect him. "Please don't hurt him. He didn't mean it," she begged, but they didn't listen. They pushed her aside and grabbed Emeka, dragging him back to the market to face the angry crowd. Emeka was crying. "It wasn't me. It wasn't my idea. My friends made me do it," he pleaded. But no one believed him. "Which friends?" they asked. Looking around, but Emeka's friends were gone, nowhere to be found. The owner of the phone stall stepped forward, furious. "What are you waiting for? Deal with him. He's a thief," she shouted. Amara pushed her way back through the crowd, still begging, "Please don't hurt him. Let him go." But the shop owner turned on her. "You are one of them. Maybe you are part of the gang that steals phones around here." Amara shook her head, crying, "No, I am not. Please, I am begging you, spare him." Emeka's tears mixed with hers, but the crowd didn't care. They were about to take action when the sound of police sirens cut through the noise. The police arrived, forcing the crowd to back off, and after hearing what had happened, they took Emeka away in handcuffs. Days later, Emeka's parents came to the police station to bail him out. His mother was crying as she begged the officers to release him. His father, though quiet, looked deeply worried. After much pleading, they were allowed to take him home. But the damage had already been done. Emeka returned to school, but nothing was the same. People stared at him, whispered about him, laughed at him behind his back. His friends, they acted like they didn't know him. His life felt like it was falling apart. One afternoon, as Emeka sat down on a bench, lost in thought, Amara came and sat next to him. She hadn't left him alone through it all. She spoke. "Emeka, you need to stay strong. I know it's hard, but this will pass. Just focus on what matters and don't let what happened define you." Emeka sighed deeply, feeling the weight of everything. But what if things don't change? What if this follows me forever? Amara smiled softly. placing her hand on his. "It won't. You'll make it through, but you have to let go of the guilt. You didn't want any of this to happen." Her words brought some comfort, though Emeka wasn't sure how to fully believe them. They sat in silence for a while, then Amara got up and left. Not long after, while walking on campus, Emeka saw Toby, the boy who had pushed him into stealing the phone in the first place, and the ringleader of the gang. Anger bubbled up inside him and he couldn't hold it in. He walked up to Toby and grabbed his arm. "Why did you leave me?" Emeka asked, his voice shaking. Toby turned to him, looked confused. "Leave you? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know you." Those words hit Emeka like a punch. Toby leaned in closer and whispered, "Listen, if you try to bring us down with you, you'll regret it. Don't say a word though." Toby walked away, leaving Emeka standing there frozen. He felt completely alone. His so-called friends had abandoned him, and now he was being threatened into silence. That night, Emeka lay awake, haunted by the faces and voices of the angry crowd. The sound of his own scream echoed in his mind, along with the memory of how the crowd had almost done the unthinkable to him. Worst of all, he was haunted by his friends and vanished into thin air, leaving him to face the fury of the mob alone. Police investigation has started, but they found little leads and the burden of silence weighed heavily on Emeka. Even though Amara had tried to help him, Emeka wasn't sure how he was going to go through this. The story was far from over, but now Emeka was stuck, unsure of what to do next and haunted by the weight of what had happened. The days after the attack felt like never-ending night. Emeka couldn't escape the terror that had taken hold of him. Each step he took felt like walking through quicksand, the weight of his fear pulling him deeper. He didn't want to leave the house, didn't want to face the world outside. The threats from his old friends echoed in his mind and making every figure seem like a hiding danger. The police kept coming around asking questions that Emeka could barely answer. He lied through his teeth, afraid that telling the truth would bring even more trouble. The lies felt like a heavy burden, but the fear of his former friend's wrath was worse. His mother noticed the dark circles under his eyes, but every time she asked about it, he had no real answers. He brushed off her concerns, saying he was just tired of stress from school. When his mother insisted he goes back to campus, it felt like another blow. "We've paid so much for your education, Emeka. You need to go back," she said with a mixture of worry and frustration. Emeka couldn't bear the thought. "I can't. I want to go to another school," he protested. His father, who had been quiet until exploded with anger. "You will stay here and finish your final year," he yelled. "Your mother and I have worked too hard to let you give up now." Emeka tried to argue, but his father's rage was unstoppable. The argument spiraled until in a moment of pure rage, his father slapped him hard across the face. Emeka's world spun. The pain, the slap mingling with his own sense of failure. His mother quickly intervened, trying to calm her husband and comfort Emeka, but the damage was done. Emeka stormed out, slamming the door behind him, his heart pounding with a mix of anger and helplessness. Wandering the streets, Emeka felt lost. The weight of his father's anger and the constant fear made everything seem bleak. It was during this aimless wandering that he saw Amara buying fried yam and potatoes from a street vendor. From a moment, seeing her like a breath of fresh air, he ran across the street, calling out her name, "Amara!" When Amara looked up and saw him, her face softened into a smile. "Oh, I didn't expect to see you here," she said, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing around here?" "I live nearby," Emeka said, trying to sound casual. "And you?" "Wow, I just live a few blocks away too," she said. They exchanged numbers and addresses, a small but meaningful connection in the midst of chaos. But even as they talked, Emeka noticed one of his former friends hiding in the dark, watching them closely. It was a chilling reminder that his troubles were far from over. Back at school, things didn't get better. Emeka tried to blend in, but the taunts followed him everywhere. Kids on the streets called him thief and laughed at him. Some even mocked Amara for associating with him, calling her a thief's friend. It was cruel and relentless. Amara's parents soon found out about her friendship with Emeka. They were furious. "Do you want to ruin our family's reputation?" her father shouted. "Stay away from him, oh! Stay away from that boy!" Amara was devastated. She went to her room and cried, feeling the sting of her parents' anger and the weight of her expectations. She wanted to support Emeka but felt trapped between her feelings for him and her family's disapproval. Back at school, Emeka struggled more than ever. He fell asleep in classes, his exhaustion visible to everyone. One day, a student put a piece of paper in his mouth while he was sleeping. When Emeka woke up, drool on his face and his eyes red with sleep, the other students laughed and called him names. Amara, sitting at her desk, watched in horror. She wanted to comfort him but feared what her parents would say if she got involved. Emeka's frustration reached its peak. The constant mockery and the weight of his past were too much to bear. One day, driven by desperation, he went to the police station. He wanted to report his former friends to finally bring them to justice. But as he walked there, his former friends intercepted him. They cornered him in a dark alley, their faces cold and threatening. "Don't even think about it going to the police," one of them said. "If you do, we'll make sure you regret it. And if you think you are bluffing, think about what could happen to Amara." The threat hit hard. Emeka felt a cold shiver down his spine. He was trapped. With nowhere to turn, he went home, his spirit crushed and his hope fading. He didn't know what to do next, feeling more lost than ever. Mr. Okoro, a retired investigator, heard about Emeka's situation and decided to help. He was determined to uncover the truth, but the danger surrounding Emeka was very real. The investigation brought a glimmer of hope, but also new risks. Mr. Okoro's presence was a small comfort, but Emeka knew the road ahead was still fraught and peril. The story was far from over. Emeka's struggles continued with more twists and turns ahead. The shadows of his past were still there, and finding a way forward seemed impossible. But with Amara's support and Mr. Okoro's determination, there was still a thread of hope. The path to redemption was unclear and the darkness of his past loomed large, but Emeka was not ready to give up just yet. The night was dark and heavy, like a weight pressing down on the world. Amara walked alone, her steps echoing in the empty streets. Her mind was filled with her parents' angry words, their disapproval like a cold shadow over her. Each step felt heavier as the night grew colder. Out of nowhere, a group of boys emerged from the darkness. They were cloaked in shadows, their faces hidden. The boys surrounded her, their eyes cold and dangerous. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. "Amara!" one of them growled. "We have a message for you." Amara's voice shook. What do you want?" "Tell Emeka to stay away from the police," the man said, his tone icy and threatening, "if he doesn't want things to get very bad for him and for you." Amara's hands trembled uncontrollably. "Why are you doing this?" The boy's eyes flashed with anger. "Because Emeka tried to expose us. And if he keeps pushing us, we will make sure he and everyone close to him suffers. Shey you hear so?" The threat was clear and terrifying. Amara felt paralyzed with fear. The man faded into the shadows, leaving her shaking and alone. She ran home, her heart racing. She had to warn Emeka, but the fear of what could happen if she did was overwhelming. At the same time, Mr. Okoro was working tirelessly on the case. He was determined to find justice for Emeka. He had spoken to witnesses, gathered evidence, and pieced together the truth. He knew how dangerous the situation was. Every lead brought him closer to uncovering the truth about Emeka's former friends, the ones who had left him for dead at the tech village. After weeks of hard work, Mr. Okoro finally had enough evidence. The case against Emeka's former friends was strong. Witnesses, security footage, and other pieces of evidence all pointed to their guilt. Mr. Okoro presented everything to the police and they acted quickly. The police arrested a group of boys who had done unspeakable things. News of their arrest spread fast, bringing a glimmer of hope. But this hope was mixed with fear. Emeka's former friends were dangerous. Their arrest meant they might retaliate. When Emeka heard about the arrest, he felt a mix of relief and dread. The feeling of justice was comforting, but the fear of what his former friends might do next was suffocating. The danger was far from over. In the days that followed, things got even harder. Emeka and Amara tried to find comfort in each other's company. Their bond grew stronger as they faced the ongoing threats together. But the danger was real and close. One evening, Emeka and Amara met at a quiet park. The weight of everything they had been through hung heavy between them. Emeka spoke, his voice cracking. "I don't know how to thank you, Amara. You've been my only light in all this darkness." Amara's eyes were full of sadness. "I am just glad I could help, but we still have to be careful. They are not going to just give up." Emeka nodded, his face showing the strain of his fears. "I know. I just wish this nightmare would end." But the nightmare continued. Emeka kept getting threatening messages. The threats made him anxious and fearful. He often felt like he was being watched. One night, as he left his apartment, he noticed a figure following him. His heart raced and he tried to escape, but the figure vanished before he could react. The constant threat took a heavy toll on Emeka. His sleep was troubled, filled with nightmares. The faces of his attackers haunted his dreams. The fear and anxiety were unrelenting. Amara wasn't faring much better. The threats she had received made every walk alone feel dangerous. Her parents continued to berate her, adding to her stress. She wanted to stay close to Emeka, but her fear for her own safety and her family's safety held her back. Despite the fear and stress, Emeka and Amara found moments of peace and comfort in each other's company. They shared their fears and hopes, growing closer with each other's meeting. Their friendship became a source of strength. One day, while sitting together in a quiet place, Emeka broke down. Tears streamed down his face as he grabbed Amara's hand. "I don't know how much more I can handle," he said, his voice breaking. "I am so scared." Amara squeezed his hand, her own tears falling. "We're in this together. We have to keep believing in what things We have to keep believing that things will get better. Their words offered some comfort, but the danger remained. The trial was a public ordeal with media attention and intense scrutiny. Emeka faced his attackers in court, feeling a mix of anger and fear. The legal process was long and grueling, but Mr. Okoro remained steadfast. He fought hard to see justice done. In the end, the court's decision brought some justice, but it couldn't erase the pain. Emeka's path to healing was still uncertain. The trauma of the attack and the threat had left deep scars. Healing would take time. Amid the ongoing struggles, there was a glimmer of hope. Emeka and Amara's bond had grown stronger, and their support for each other gave them the strength to face the future. They faced each day together, determined to move forward despite the challenges. Their story wasn't over, and the road ahead was still filled with uncertainty. But as Emeka and Amara faced their trials, they did so with sense of purpose and hope. The shadows of their past lingered, but their shared strength and hope for the future gave them the courage to keep going. The day of graduation should have been a time of joy, but for Emeka it was shrouded in fear and anticipation. The campus was buzzing with excitement, and students in their gowns chatted eagerly about their futures. Emeka tried to join in the celebration, but his thoughts were clouded with dread. The threats from his past still lingered, and the sense of unease never left him. Amara was there too, her presence a small comfort amid the chaos. She looked radiant in her graduation gown, but her eyes betrayed the worry she felt for Emeka. They had grown closer over the months, and her support had become a lifeline for him. He clung to her strength, hoping that this day might bring a break from the constant fear. As the ceremony drew to a close, the crowd began to thin. Emeka and Amara were walking together, their hands brushing as they talked about their plans for the future. The air was filled with a mix of excitement and relief. But suddenly, a loud crack shattered the moment. Emeka's heart skipped a beat, his body freezing as he heard the sound of gunshots. Chaos erupted, people screamed and scattered in all directions. Emeka turned to find Amara lying on the ground, her face pale, her eyes wide with shock. Blood was pooling around her, and the world seemed to collapse on itself. No, no, Amara, Emeka cried. His voice breaking, he fell to his knees beside her, his hands trembling as he tried to stop the bleeding. Please stay with me, please. Please stay with me, please. Amara, we need to get you to the hospital, please. No, Amara, no. Amara's parents arrived in a frantic rush, their faces etched with fear and confusion. They pushed through the crowd, their eyes locking onto Emeka with anger and desperation. Why didn't you protect her? Oh my God! Oh my God! Amara's father roared, grabbing Emeka by the collar. What did you do? What did you do to my daughter? Emeka's parents rushed over, trying to ease the tension. Please, let's get help, Emeka's father pleaded, trying to calm the situation. This isn't the time for accusations. But the scene was too chaotic. The crowd was growing larger, and the situation was spiraling out of control. Amid the confusion, Amara's parents continued to berate Emeka, their grief turning into rage. The weight of the accusation was almost too much to bear. Amara, weak and barely conscious, whispered through Emeka's tears, Emeka, I can feel the life. I can feel the life leaving me. Her voice was barely audible, but it cut through the noise like a knife. Emeka felt his heart break. He held her hand tightly, his tears mixing with the blood on her gown. "Please, Amara, stay with me. You can't leave, not like this, please." He looked around frantically, desperate for help. "We need to get her to the hospital now. Someone, please." Amara's breathing was shallow and her body was growing colder. Emeka could see the life slipping away from her. He clung to her, his voice desperate. "Stay with me, Amara. Don't give up, please. You have to stay with me. You can't die, not now." The sirens finally wailed in the distance and an ambulance arrived, but the minutes felt like hours. Emeka could barely comprehend what was happening. His world was collapsing around him, and the fear and sorrow were overwhelming. As Amara was placed in the ambulance, Emeka stayed by her side, his heart aching every passing second. He continued to whisper words of comfort, even though he feared they might be too late. He promised her that everything would be alright, though the hope was quickly fading. The ride to the hospital was a blur. Emeka was consumed with deep paralyzing grief. He watched helplessly as Amara was rushed into the emergency room. The reality of the situation hit him with full force, and he felt as if the world was spinning out of control. Hours passed, and the waiting room was a sea of anxious faces. Emeka sat alone, his mind replaying every moment of the shooting. The images of Amara lying on the ground, her eyes closing, haunted him. His heart ached with a pain he could hardly describe. Eventually, a doctor emerged, his face solemn. "I am sorry," the doctor said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "We did everything we could, but we couldn't save her." The words hit Emeka like a physical blow. He felt as if the ground had been ripped from beneath him. He sank to the floor, his soul was uncontrollable. His body racked with weight of his loss. The world seemed to shatter and the pain was unbearable. Amara's parents were devastated, their grief turning into a silent mourning. They couldn't bring themselves to speak, their faces pale and tears streaming down their cheeks. The days that followed were a blur of mourning and anguish. Emeka was lost in a fog of sorrow, unable to find solace or escape from the crushing weight of his grief. The graduation day, which should have been a milestone, had turned into a day of unbearable tragedy. As Emeka struggled to come to terms with the loss, he felt a profound sense of guilt. He wondered if there was something he could have done differently. The pain of losing Amara was a constant reminder of fragility of life and the cruel twist of fate. The story was far from over and the path ahead was uncertain. Emeka faced the future marred by loss and heartbreak. But amidst the darkness, he found a glimmer of hope in the memories of Amara. Her strength and kindness had touched his life deeply, and her memory would continue to guide him through the trials ahead. The days after Amara's passing felt like a never-ending nightmare for Emeka. He was lost in grief, trying to understand how his world had shattered so completely. The pain was everywhere and it felt like nothing would ever be the same again. Soon, the police caught the shooter. They found out he was part of the gang that had made Emeka's life unbearable. He was a backup agent, ready to step in if things went wrong. They had planned to make Emeka suffer by taking someone he loved. It was a cruel way to punish him for trying to get justice. This news hit Emeka hard. He felt like it was his fault that Amara was no more. He thought if he had kept quiet, she would still be alive. He wished it had been him who had perished at the tech village instead. He felt that fate had been unfair, sparing him but taking her away. Emeka was drowning in guilt and sadness. He sat alone thinking about how Amara had risked everything to help him. Now she was gone, and he was left with nothing but grief. He wished he could have taken her place, that he could have been the one to suffer instead of her. Amidst the sorrow, Emeka made a vow. He promised himself he would never be involved in any bad gangs or criminal activities again. He wanted to use his pain to help others, to show them how dangerous and painful a life of crime could be. He decided to share his story with others, hoping to stop them from making the same mistakes he had. Emeka started speaking at schools and community centers. He told the story and warned people about the dangers of joining gangs. He spoke with the hope that his experience could prevent others from facing the same fate. It wasn't easy, and he still felt the weight of his loss, but he found some comfort in making a difference. Every time he talked to a group of students, he felt like he was doing something meaningful. He hoped that by sharing his story, he was honoring Amara's memory and helping others avoid the mistakes he had made. Even though his heart was still heavy with grief, he found a small amount of hope in knowing that his efforts might make a difference. Emeka's journey wasn't over. He still carried the scars of his past, but he was determined to use his pain to help others. He kept Amara's memory close, using it as a reminder to make better choices and live a life that would make her proud. In the end, Emeka's story was one of loss and hope. It was about a man who faced terrible pain but chose to rise above it. His path was marked by heartache and healing, and he continued to walk forward, driven by the memory of someone who had given him so much and asked for nothing in return.